Hi everybody, welcome back. So this is going to be the third and I hope the final episode of, well I guess depending on how you look at it, who can give the best top layers, Cura, Prusa Slicer or IdeaMaker, or can Chuck hold these little things up to the camera and get it to focus and not be in the shadows. Anyway, I am calling this episode All the Tweaks, meaning I have got all the tweaks in, and that's this group here. This are some previous ones for comparison purposes, but all the tweaks I can do to get the best top layers possible. Now, you know, Cura, I see I've got the most experience with Cura, and I have some extra ones here that I don't have in the others, and that's because some of you have given me ideas and things to try on what I can do to cure that problem with the little cracks around the edges. Now, note that I have already solved that issue, and note also that there is no one setting in Cura that solves it. Some things help it, no one setting cures it completely. Also, please, when you guys tell me, hey, go watch Chep's video or Teaching Tech's video or 3DMN's video, for God's sakes, please either give me a link or tell me what the title of the video is. While I would love watching every one of those videos every one of those guys made, some of them have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, and I just don't have the time to watch all of them. And searching, you know, search Chep for IdeaMaker. Well, you know what? There's 100 of them at least. So I'd love to watch them all, but I just can't. So back to some of the suggestions you guys gave me for Cura. Somebody in the before I made the previous video said the temperatures. I checked that, it didn't change it. Couple people said try concentric instead of lines for the top layer. Well, let's go with that one first. I did that. Where is that? That is this one. First, it did not cure the problem. You will see right down in here, if the camera will show it, I still have some of the cracking, some of the gaps. It is not as noticeable, but it is still there. But more importantly for me, that's a horrible looking top surface. I just don't like it. I would never use that. It just, to me, it just sucks. So sorry about it, but that is concentric for me. So then there was one somebody suggested, turn on, where is it? Turn on optimized wall printing order, and this is back to just the regular lines on the top. And you will see once again, right around in there, there is that gap again. And there's even a little bit around here too, and there was on the other one. That is something in Cura that there is no one setting that will turn off. I have turned on all the tweaks in Cura, and I have solved that problem again. But that is the suggestions you guys have made. Now I want, other than that, now I want to jump into the slicers themselves, and you can see the settings I have changed for all the tweaks, and honestly, they're pretty simple for IdeaMaker and Prusa Slicer, because those were already pretty good. There wasn't really a lot I could do to make them a whole bunch better. Cura, I put all my tweaks back in, and we'll come back and look at them. These are here from the previous one for comparisons if we want to do it. And yeah, let's jump into the software and let's see the changes I made for this round. Oh, and before y'all just scream ironing at me again, I know about ironing. I've used it in the past. I don't want to do it in this set of videos. I may do it later. I've never cared for the appearance ironing left, even though it did make it smoother, and I've especially never cared for the amount of added time. In that big stand, my wife wants, if I remember correctly, it adds like 6 or 8 hours into the total print time. So, that being said, let's jump into the software and let's have a look. Okay, let's start in Cura because that one has the most changes. And let's go through them here real quick. And they're not a huge amount different from my previous, but there are several more, and they took me a lot of work to get correct. And if you watched my video from like 3 or 4 videos ago where I did what does top surface skin layer in Cura do, that's the one where I walk through them all, but I'm going to go through them again real quick here. So first things first, line width, I went from 0.4 to 0.5. That's something that when I first started trying to solve this problem over 2 years ago, I think it was Smart Avionics or Bertugal over on the Cura forums suggested to me, and it helped a great deal. Solved it in 90% of the cases. Every now and again it will still pop up, but that solves an awful lot of it just by itself. So what else did I change? I turned on and left optimize wall printing order, and there that is there. I turned that on because that does also seem to help. So other than that, I turned back on my, see if we can find it. It's called skin overlap percentage. I turned that from 5% to 10%. That is another thing that helps close those gaps up, but again, won't do it completely. Oh, here we go. Skin overlap percentage. I should just look for my little half circular arrow. Skin overlap percentage, I went from 5% to 10%. That does help too. If you make it too big, then you wind up with a lumpy surface as it puts the top surface skin completely over top of the walls. So I also turned my skin edge support thickness back on and made it 3 layers thick. That helps support the roofs as they're being built. Whether it really supports the top layer, the very last top layer, I don't know, but it does help the initial layers. So I also went here when we go to top surface skin speed, I turned it up from the default to like 15 or 20 up to 70, and that helps a bit as well. And I think under flow, I think I've already had the flow set to, where is flow? It's under material, the flow set to 105. I think I had that in the last one as well. So that's the changes I made to Cura. I didn't change anything else. Skin line, top surface skin line width is 0.3. It still lines, and I have not changed anything else in this. So that's Cura. Let's go over to IdeaMaker, and it is much simpler. I did not change much in that. All I did was try to adopt what I learned in Cura to put in IdeaMaker to see if it would make a difference. It kind of sort of did, but it's really minor. Let's take a look at them. And in edit, and under the only really change that I made, you see in the last one I turned on a top surface. They call top surface solid fill layers as opposed to top solid. I tell you, these terminologies have me tripping over my tongue. Top solid fill layers, then top surface solid. That's top surface solid fill layers. That's what Cura is calling top skin layers. It's the very last, the very uppermost of the top layers. And as you can see, I had it set to 105% and 75% of 0.4, which is 0.3. I don't have the gap problems at all in any other slicer than Cura, so I'm really not trying to solve that problem. I'm just trying to smooth that top layer up a little bit more. And under speed, I changed the default top surface solid fill speed. Default was 15. I did like I did in Cura. I did a lot of test blocks in Cura to figure out that 70 millimeters per second made it the best. So I tried that here too. I thought, what the heck, maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. We'll see. So that's all I did in IdeaMaker. IdeaMaker out of the box gave me what I thought was the best top surface layer with the very most minimal changes possible. So I didn't really want to mess with that, but I really wanted to see if I could refine it a little bit. So that was what I made. That's the changes I made in IdeaMaker. Oh no, I don't want to close it. Cancel that. I just want to minimize it. Sorry about that. Let's pop over to Prusa Slicer. Now, you'll notice if you look up at the top, I am now using 2.3.0 release candidate 1 on Prusa Slicer. And the reason why I went to the release candidate was because it boasts the monotonic surface pattern. So if we pop over to print settings and we go to, it's under infill for some reason,
and we look at top fill pattern, it is now monotonic. And what monotonic tries to do is, if you've ever had a top surface layer that is, I was almost said marred, but I don't mean marred, that has surface changes in it, like raised or lowered things across the surface, you'll notice that as slicers fill that, they tend to do fill pieces here, fill pieces over there, and they fill it all around in different chunks until it's finally filled. And that changes the look. You can't help but have a different look and reflectivity in those areas. So monotonic attempts to force a slicer to print all the way across without doing any fill here, fill there, miss here, fill back in over there type of thing. Anyway, I have seen it make drastic changes. I watch videos. I've seen it make drastic differences in some things. Whether it will make a difference in mine or not, we don't know yet, but we will find out. Ironing, of course, is off. And the only other thing I did was over in printer settings, I think it was. Where is it here? Under printer settings. Is it in printer settings? Prusa Slicer puts things in places that, coming from Cura, kind of don't make any sense to me. So sometimes it really is kind of hard to find it. Maybe it was here in under here. And what I was trying to do, and it is not in here. Come on, where did you put it? Won't be there, won't be there. Is it in advanced? Here it is in advanced. Okay, who knew line width was advanced? But anyway, here we go. I tried to change the top surface infill to 0.3 like I have done in the others. Prusa Slicer would not let me. It gave me an error message saying it was too small considering the layer height. I don't understand that. The others let me do it. Prusa Slicer won't let me. So I upped the 0.3 to 0.32, and it seemed happy with that. So those are the changes that I made in these three pieces of software to get to the point where I'm calling it all the tweaks, because I tried a bunch of other things, and to be honest, I had things that made it worse and things that made it not change at all. So I'm only going with the things where I noticed even just the tiniest bit of improvement. Everything else I'm leaving out of this because you don't need to know all the hops, skips, and jumps I took to get to where I'm at right now. So let's go back and let's look at the finished pieces. I've already printed them, and let's see if we can tell what made much of a difference. And let's see if we can name some winners and some losers here. There are no losers here, are there? We're learning new stuff, and that's a win-win for everybody. So be right back.
Okay, we're back. So let's take a look at this print. And once again, I'm sorry I had to change color. I ran out of the orange. I am now out of all of my end spools. I ran off all the green, all the white, and all the orange. And now I had to go to a nearly full spool in this brown. And I swear to God, I bet I've printed 100 of these different things, fooling around with all these different settings. So let's start with Cura. This is all the tweaks. And as you'll see, Cura can, once you get all those tweaks in, Cura can produce a pretty darn nice, smooth top layer. Why some people have that problem with cracks and gaps and other people do not, I do not know. I have had people print this exact same model. And oh, by the way, I am going to put these models, and I might put my profiles in it too, in a Thingiverse thing, and I'll link it in the description. But I'm not the only one that has that problem with Cura. I have had it across multiple printers, multiple computers, multiple versions of the software, and it's always done it to me. So here is, again, Cura, all the tweaks. And as you will see, there are no gaps, no cracks, nothing anywhere. Cura has produced now, after all those changes, a pretty nice solid top layer. If I was the guys at Cura, because if you do a search for Cura gaps in top layer, you will find a lot of people having the issue. If I was Cura, I would go back and I would make those changes, maybe not the top surface skin layer changes, but I'd make those other changes. I would make them the default, because that does look pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. If I was to continue with Cura, I would leave those settings alone. So over to IdeaMaker. Only thing I did in IdeaMaker was I changed that top line width
2.3. Let me get it out of that shadow. I swear I managed to find shadows no matter where I go with this. I'm not sure. I think the camera itself is making, the view screen of the camera is making that one. But as you can see, the only thing really about IdeaMaker I kind of don't like is some of these lines. Can you see like this line here and that line there? I'm not sure why it's doing that. I've watched it carefully a number of times and I don't really see it producing that. It's kind of odd. While I don't really care for it, it is certainly not a deal breaker. That is a nice top layer. Let's take a look at the full size one. Now we're into the brown. Brown has a lovely reflectivity. This is 3D Solutech brown. I know a lot of people have told me they have problems with 3D Solutech, but I've been using it for quite a while. I probably used a dozen spools of it, and it always turns out really nicely for me. And has a lot of reflectivity here, so it does show up a lot of the artifacting, which is both good and bad. You will see one of the things that I have never gotten out of any of them is this stripe from here to here. It goes back and forth all the way across, then it stops and it does one side to there, then it does the other side, and then it does over here. So you get that difference in reflectivity across from where that hole is. And I'm not even sure ironing will take that out completely. I really don't want to get involved in ironing again. Like I say, I have played with it in the past. I don't care for the surface it looks, it leaves, and it doesn't add a lot of time into something like this, but when there's 35 of these, it adds 6 or 8 hours. So we may play with it again, I don't know. So onward to Prusa Slicer Release Candidate 1. This has monotonic upper layers. You'll see Prusa Slicer, all tweaks, Release Candidate 1, monotonic layers. And as you'll see, monotonic layers for this thing I'm printing here really doesn't make any difference. Let's get the last one. Here's the one from the last video, Prusa Slicer small tweaks. This came in version 2.2. And as you can see, there really isn't any significant difference between the two. Monotonic layers does not change the way it prints between this one and this one. Now, if I had raised lettering or other raised things on the surface, it probably would. And you know, I was thinking about making a model that would show off that, but you know, that's kind of like making a test that specifically plays to the strengths of one of the 3 pieces of software. And even if I tell you guys ahead of time that's what I've done, it still really isn't kind of very fair, is it? So here is the 2-tiered one with the same thing. Oh, and as I said, I also lowered the line width to try and get a slightly smoother surface. It has some of the issues that IdeaMaker has. You can see these little lines there and there. Really watching, trying to see it do that, and couldn't really identify why it's doing it. But it's much less noticeable in Prusa Slicer than it is in IdeaMaker or Cura. And yeah, it's very nice. I mean, I'm very impressed with Prusa Slicer. Very impressed with it. So, there we have it. Ironing notwithstanding, that's what we've got. So, who are the big winners and the big losers here? Well, assuming that you're not a person who has that gaps in Cura like I and other people have had, there is no big losers. These 3 pieces of software all make nice upper layers. If you do have the problem with Cura, Cura is the big loser without a doubt, because it takes multiple tweaks in order to get it to produce a top layer without those cracks. Of these other 2, Prusa Slicer makes a nicer top layer than IdeaMaker does. It just does. And that's not even including monotonic layers, since it didn't really have a difference on these 2 particular models. So let's go with the average person who doesn't have a problem with the gaps in Cura. Out of the box, Cura and IdeaMaker would be about the same. Prusa requires you to go in and change the retraction and turn on that setting that says do not cross perimeters. If you're willing to do a few small tweaks, I think without a doubt that's when Prusa Slicer starts to shine.
And if you have a top surface layer that can be influenced by monotonic layers, I have heard and have seen that it can make an even bigger deal there. If you're somebody like me that has a problem with Cura, without gaps, honestly, I would suggest you just stop using it. It does require a boatload of tweaks, and it really is kind of a pain in the tush. If you don't have it, then that doesn't apply to you. So where do we go from here with this? Well, I tell you where I'm going. I'm going to Prusa Slicer. That's going to become my main slicer going forward. It seems like it has the best ability to make a print without having to make a failed print and then go back and make some tweaks and then make another one. If for some reason I didn't like Prusa Slicer, I would probably go to IdeaMaker. And again, if you don't have the problem I had with Cura, these two I would consider to be pretty much the same. They all three seem to be getting current development, and they all three seem to get a lot of love and a lot of work from their developers, which is great. As far as the support from the community is concerned, I think Cura has probably the better community support, with Prusa Slicer being second, and IdeaMaker seeming to be kind of hard to find a lot of answers for. At least that was my experience. So, am I going to do another one where I do ironing? I really don't know. I think I've printed enough of these. I may do a quickie about ironing, but I'm having my doubts about it. I know some of you guys like it, and that's great. I've never cared for it, but again, I haven't tried it for a couple of years, so who knows, I may try it again. So, I hope you guys learned something along with me. Please like and subscribe and hit notifications, and I will put the links below to the models and maybe the profiles as well. I'll have to see how difficult it is to get profiles out of IdeaMaker and Prusa Slicer. And you guys can play along and see what you got with these. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a great holiday, and I'll catch you all the next time. Bye for now.